George and Jenny Sodder were immigrants from Italy. In 1923, they had the first of the 10 children. George's business prospered. He had strong opinions about many subjects and was not shy about expressing them, sometimes alienating people. In particular, his strident opposition to Italian dictator Benito Mussolini had led to some strong arguments with some other members of the immigrant community. The last of the Sodder children, Sylvia, was born in 1943. By then, their oldest son Joe had left the military. The following year, Mussolini was deposed and executed. George Sodder's criticism of the late dictator had left some hard feelings. In 1945, a life insurance salesman warned George that the house would go up in smoke and their children are going to be destroyed after he had refused the life insurance. Another visitor seeking work took the occasion to go around back and warned George that a pair of fuse boxes would cause a fire someday. George had just the house rewired when an electrical stove was installed. The local electrical company said that the wiring was fine. In the weeks before Christmas that year, his older son had also noticed a strange car parked along the main highway through town, its occupants watching the younger Sodder children as they would return home from school. Timeline: 12:30 a.m. Christmas. Jenny Sodder had a phone call with a woman whose voice she didn't recognize, asked for a name she was not familiar with. She heard other voices in the background along with clinking glasses and weird laughter. When Jenny got off the phone, she checked on her children. She noticed lights were on and the curtains were closed. She found one child, Marion, asleep on the couch and returned to bed assuming the other children were in the attic and had forgotten to close the house down. 1 a.m. Jenny Sodder woke up again to the sound of an object hitting the house roof with a loud bang, then a rolling noise. Then she went back to sleep. 1:30 a.m. Jenny Sodder woke up again, this time to the smell of smoke. She got up and found a fire in George's office. That's also where the fuse box to the telephone wires were. Jenny woke up George and they escaped the house with their 4 children, Marianne, Sylvia, John, and George Jr. The family yelled at the house, assuming they would wake the older children who slept in the attic. These were the children who had stayed up later than the rest of the family, and Jenny had assumed went to bed without shutting the lights off. They did not hear from the other children and could not go upstairs to get them because the staircase was aflame. Next, the family tried to call for help. The Sodder phone did not work, so one of the children ran to the neighbors and called. The family tried to locate their ladder in order to check on the children in the attic. It usually was resting against the side of the house, but now it was missing. George Sodder tried to use both of his trucks to drive closer to the house so that he could crawl on up to the attic. Both were previously in good working order, but now they would not start. Because of these various delays and because the fire department was small and volunteer only, most of the firefighters were overseas serving in the war. They did not arrive until morning when the family assumed the other 5 children had already died. When the fire department finally did arrive and began going through the ashes of the Sodder house, they did not find any bones or fragments. The fire chief still believes the children died in the fire. After the fire, they found the family ladder had been moved from the side of the house and hidden in an embankment near the home. Someone from the telephone company discovered that someone had crawled up a telephone pole and cut the phone line leading to the Sodders' home. A local bus driver provided an alternate account. The driver of a bus that passed through during late Christmas said he had seen some people throwing balls of fire at the house. A few months later, when the snow had melted, Sylvia found a small, hard, dark green rubber ball-like object in the brush nearby. George, recalling his wife's account of a loud thump on the roof before the fire, said it looked like a pineapple bomb, hand grenade, or some other incendiary device used in combat. The family later claimed, contrary to the fire marshal's conclusion, the fire had started on the roof, although by then there was no way to prove it. People in town claim they saw the missing children in a vehicle the night of the fire, or have seen them since. In 1949, the site of the house fire was excavated. Human vertebrae bones were found, but an expert said they could only come from a human aged 16 or 23 and had never been exposed to fire. The oldest of the children missing was 14 at the time of the fire. An expert also noted that it was very strange that more bones weren't found, as they should not have been burned up in that situation. Another sighting, a woman who ran a Charleston hotel, claimed to have seen the children approximately a week afterwards. I do not remember the exact date, she said in a statement. The children had come in around midnight with 2 men and 2 women, all of whom appeared to be of Italian extraction. But when she attempted to speak with the children, one of the men looked at me in a hostile manner. He turned around and began talking rapidly in Italian. Immediately, the whole party stopped talking to me. In 1967, Jenny Sodder received a photo in the mail of a man resembling one of the missing children, Louis. The back of the photo read, "Louis Sodder, I love brother Frankie, little boys, A90132, or 35. With the end of official efforts to resolve the case, the Sodders did not give up hope. They had flyers printed with pictures of the children, offering a $5,000 reward, soon doubled, for information that would have settled the case for even one of them. In 1952, they put up a billboard at the side of the house, and another along Route 19. It would become an official landmark. They hired a detective to try to go find Louis Sodder, but the detective disappeared and was never heard from again. Sodder admitted to the Charleston Gazette-Mail late the next year that the lack of information had been like hitting a rock wall. "We can't go any further." He nevertheless vowed to continue. "Time is running out for us," he admitted in another interview, "but we only want to know. If they died in the fire, we want to be convinced. Otherwise, we want to know what happened to them." George died in 1969. Jenny and her surviving children, except John, who never really talked about the night of the fire except to say the family should accept it and go on with their lives, continue to seek answers to their questions about the missing children's fate. For the rest of her life, Jenny wore black in mourning and tended the garden at the side of the old former house. The family, along with some other residents in town, believe the Sicilian mafia may have taken the children and started the fire in an attempt to extort money from the Sodders, though no one has reached out and asked for money. Sylvie Sodder Paxton still believes that her siblings survived that night and quietly assists efforts to find them in the publicized case. She promised my grandparents she wouldn't let the story die, and she would do everything she could, her daughter said in 2006.